Touchdown, Alabama, let's get it.
The process, no one can stop this. Hottest show in the streets, I bet you can't top this. Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
The process.
Hey everyone, welcome into a new week of The Process Crimson Tide Recruiting. And I'm your host, Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama. Thank you guys so much for joining me today on our YouTube page. If you're not subscribed, be sure to hit that subscribe button below. Leave a like. Also, if you are subscribed, be sure to hit that notification bell so you can be notified when we drop content on our YouTube page. On today's episode, I do want to discuss a upcoming recruiting battle in terms of the Auburn Tigers and the Alabama Crimson Tide, how each program will continue to pursue some of the top prospects inside the state in the future, and also discuss Curtis Perry, who will most likely decide between the Tigers and the Crimson Tide, as both programs will take the field of Jordan-Hare Stadium on Saturday to compete in the rich rivalry, which is the Iron Bowl. I will also discuss Isaiah Bond, a four-star athlete out of Bruford High School in Bruford, Georgia, decommitting from the Florida Gators after unofficially visiting the University of Alabama over the weekend. So we'll discuss those two critical topics, but I will also discuss some other updates as the Crimson Tide extended a couple of new offers over the weekend. I think this is the most active Alabama has been in terms of offering new guys during a game day visit, and one of those offers went out to one of the top edge rushers in the 2023 recruiting class, in Tassili Akana. He received an offer from the University of Alabama over the weekend. That offer did come from Nick Saban. I had an opportunity to catch up with the long physical edge rusher, and he talked about how he got the offer from Nick Saban, talked about how Saban told him to watch Dallas Turner and Will Anderson and how they played, because he feel that this is the position where he will play if he chooses to play under their program in the future. You guys can learn a little bit more about Akana really soon, as I will produce an article pretty soon here. I did get an interview with him a couple of minutes ago, an hour or so, I would say. So he will definitely be featured on TouchdownAlabama.com pretty soon. The Crimson Tide also extended a new offer to a 2024 defensive back, Tavon Fagans. He is a product of Tampa, Florida, out of Carrollwood Day School in Florida. The Crimson Tide extended an offer to him, and he's a guy with a lot of potential. Like I said, he is in the 2024 recruiting class, so you know he has a lot of room to grow. He has a lot of potential. He brings a lot of things to the table. He's a long defensive back who really excelled in man-to-man coverage this past season. Picked up an offer from the Crimson Tide as his recruitment continues to take off in its early stages, with him being a 2024 prospect. Alabama also offered a 2023 offensive lineman out of Ohio who has seen his recruitment explode over the last couple of weeks. He has picked up several new offers since picking up his first offer on October 28th from Mel Tucker in Michigan State. The Crimson Tide extended him an offer over the weekend. He's a guy who has a lot of potential as well, and that is why his recruitment is trending in a positive direction. He's picked up several new offers, like I said, over the last couple of weeks, including offers from Alabama now and the Ohio State University. And when you get offers from the Buckeyes and the Crimson Tide, you know you are going to be considered one of the top prospects in your recruiting class. So Austin Silverell, he picked up an offer from the Crimson Tide. He's a guy who's seen his recruitment really flourish over the last couple of weeks. Like I said, he's rated as a 3-star recruiter, I think, on most recruiting sites, but that is going to change because of what he brings to the table and some of the things that he has shown during his junior season in the state of Ohio. So those are the 3 prospects that I got a chance to interview. The Alabama Crimson Tide did extend a couple of other new offers as well. We'll continue to try to get updates on those guys as well to be posted over at TouchdownAlabama.com. Another update I want to provide to you guys is a prospect I've talked about recently on The Process, and that prospect is 4-star offensive lineman Olas Elanine. He actually got an opportunity to visit Alabama on today. I recently wrapped up an interview with him a couple of minutes ago, and he told me that Alabama was at the top of his recruitment after visiting the Crimson Tide. He got an opportunity to see everything. He said he saw Bryant-Denny Stadium, he saw the full campus, he had an opportunity to meet Coach Saban, he had an opportunity to meet the Crimson Tide's offensive lineman Coach Doug Marrone. We'll have a story on Olas over at TouchdownAlabama.com soon as well. He will go more in depth about his visit. As he said, the Crimson Tide are standing on top of his recruitment after Tuesday's visit. He wrapped up that visit a couple of hours ago. He had an opportunity to interview him really quickly. Be sure to check out that article. Be sure to pick up your subscription at touchdownalabama.com as well. But now I am going to transition into something I talked about at the top of the show. With the Iron Bowl approaching, we all know how important this rivalry is for fans, specifically inside the state. You grow up watching both programs, and sometimes you have to choose between one or the other. You are either going to be an Auburn fan or an Alabama fan. And when you just take a look at some of the prospects inside the state, specifically in the 2023 recruiting class, you get an opportunity to see how rich this state is in talent, specifically in that recruiting class. And both of these programs will be fighting for some of these prospects we have posted on our screen right now. Of course, John Ivory has the beautiful graphic design for us. You just can take a look at the loaded top talent inside the state of Alabama in the 2023 recruiting class. You see guys like Peter Woods, Tony Mitchell, Jaleel Hurley, and Kelby Collins, James Smith, Quay Rusaw. Those are just some of the prospects who Auburn and Alabama are going to try to keep inside the state. A couple of guys who did not get an opportunity to even basically fit that graphic are guys like Yunze Pierre, who visited both programs during this season. You also have a guy like Waquez Macadary out of Anderson High School, who also has a chance to go to either one of those programs. And just talking about those prospects who we are discussing now, you just can tell how loaded the state will be in the 2023 recruiting class, and both of these programs will try to keep all of those guys inside the state. Of course, the Iron Bowl is very important. Auburn wants to defeat Alabama every time, and Alabama definitely wants to get the win as well, and a win could possibly go over well for Auburn, especially with the way that their season is headed and the way that things have been going for them. A win will be huge for them, possibly on the recruiting trail in the future, building up hope for them to possibly land some of those guys in that 2023 recruiting class. But as far as the 2022 recruiting class goes, both programs are zoned in on one prospect in the 2022 recruiting class in particular, and he is four-star defensive end Curtis Perry out of Pike Road High School in Pike Road, Alabama. Perry had an opportunity to officially visit the University of Alabama over the weekend. That visit looked like it went well. He posted a lot of pictures to his Facebook, to his Twitter, and also to his Instagram. We're working to get an interview with him to learn a little bit more about the specifics of his visit. But I still feel Alabama is in a good position. They were in a great position heading into that official visit, so I feel that they most likely have strengthened their position. But Auburn will host Perry for an official visit this weekend. Of course, the Auburn Tigers have been heavily involved in this recruitment just as long as Alabama has. Of course, they had a coaching change with Gus Malzahn heading to UCF and getting let go by the Auburn program, but Perry definitely still has a great relationship with some of the coaches inside the Auburn program. He has a great relationship with Gus Malzahn as well. Even though Malzahn left, he still gave a lot of interest to UCF during his recruitment. I think they are listed in his top 5 at the moment. But with Brian Harsin coming into the Auburn University football program, he has had an opportunity to build a relationship with a lot of prospects, with them being their coach for this full season and being coached ahead of the season as well. So he has had an opportunity to build a relationship with Perry. So I feel the Auburn Tigers are the biggest threat at the moment to possibly land Perry over Alabama. So there's just an interesting development to pay attention to with him taking that official visit to Auburn this weekend. If Alabama pulls off the win in dominant fashion, possibly, they could go over really well for the Crimson Tide, and they could really take advantage of having Perry watch them defeat Auburn in their own house. So that is something else to take a look at, something else to keep your eyes focused on. But I want to close today's show off by discussing the Crimson Tide possibly being in the mix for 4-star athlete Isaiah Bond, who recently decommitted from the Florida Gators. If you guys are not familiar with Bond, he is a prospect who the Crimson Tide have recruited pretty heavily in this 2022 recruiting class, I would say. They hosted him for an official visit during the summer, had an opportunity to get him to basically see them in person for their first game of the season, as he is from Bruford High School in Bruford, Georgia. He did travel to Atlanta to see the Crimson Tide take on the Miami Hurricanes in the first game of the season. He returned to see the Crimson Tide for an unofficial visit, like I said earlier, last weekend. So the Crimson Tide got him back on campus, and the Crimson Tide have been recruiting him heavily. Like I said, I remember talking to him in September when I saw Bruford take on the school out of North Carolina when I went to see Jake Pope play in person for the first time. But I also wanted to see Isaiah Bond and what he brought to the table, and he was really impressive. Plays on both sides of the football for Bruford High School. They primarily use him at wide receiver and defensive back. The Crimson Tide have expressed interest in him playing on either sides of the ball, so he could be a wide receiver at the next level. He brings a lot of speed to that position. He's an impressive track runner. He has a lot of speed, great route runner in my opinion. He brings a lot to that wide receiver position. He's also a physical defensive back. He has grown in his physicality at defensive back, so he could play either position at the next level. And I remember after the game, I had an opportunity to interview him. And he told me that Alabama was still in heavy contact. He said that their contact with them had gotten stronger since he verbally committed to the Florida Gators, because they knew that signing day was a long time away, and they knew that they were going to play the long game with him in terms of pushing for him until he signed his national letter of intent to the University of Florida. He also said he had a special place in his heart for the Crimson Tide in the Alabama program. So the Crimson Tide looked to be in a great position in my mind to possibly get a commitment from him in the future when he makes another decision, as the Crimson Tide did get him on campus for that official visit, in the mix of Dan Mullen getting fired by the Florida Gators. So I do feel that the Crimson Tide are in a good position with Bond. He's a guy to definitely pay attention to with national signing day approaching. Alabama has been recruiting him heavily. They are familiar with him. He is familiar with their program. He has shown interest in them. They have shown heavy interest in him. So I feel Alabama is definitely the program to watch for Isaiah Bond, as he will continue to try to evaluate his recruitment, as several new offers have come in today for the four-star athlete. I talked about Auburn and Alabama competing on the recruiting trail, but Auburn actually offered him a couple of hours ago. He posted that to Twitter, and a couple of hours ago that he got an offer from Auburn University. So Auburn may be involved in that recruitment battle, but I feel Georgia is probably a bigger threat to Alabama to possibly land Bun, because they are the in-state program. They have shown interest in him for a long time as well. But those are the recruiting updates I want to provide you guys with today. We will continue to provide a lot more updates over at touchdownalabama.com, so pick up your subscription today. With that subscription, you will be able to read all of our subscriber only issues. Also, be sure to pick up an issue of the latest Touchdown Alabama magazine. Then head over to the Apple App Store if you have an Apple device, or over to the Google Play Store if you have an Android device, to download the Touchdown Alabama app. We usually do the show every Tuesday and Thursday. With Thanksgiving being on Thursday, we will not do a show this upcoming Thursday, so you guys will most likely see me on Saturday for the Auburn versus Alabama Iron Bowl watch party, which will be posted live on our YouTube. Please join me and our producer John Ivory in that watch party. Also head over to the like button, hit that subscribe button. Also turn on all of your notifications so you can be notified when we drop content on our YouTube page. As always, I am Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama.
Process.